This week, we celebrate an important milestone in the journey that began just under 3 years ago. A journey that owes its origins to the catastrophic COVID-19 pandemic. History is replete with stories of transformational ideas, projects, and initiatives that were the byproducts of responses to a major crisis. The Afreximbank Caribbean outreach was no different. Today's event presents a unique opportunity to tell the story. At the height of the COVID-19 crisis in 2020, the world was turned into a jungle where only the fittest will survive. Procuring very basic face masks, test kits, and other COVID-19 containment items was a function of the size of your order and the depth of your pocket. Fragmented African economies, as well as small island Caribbean economies, stood little or no chance. For the first time, the African Union quickly realized the power of aggregating and pooling its over 1.4 billion people rather than engage in the market as individual countries. It then mandated Afreximbank, Africa CDC, and the UN Economic Commission for Africa to develop a pooled procurement mechanism for COVID-19 supplies. We developed and deployed the African Medical Supplies Platform, a digital platform used to pool Africa's demand and to deliver COVID-19 supplies across Africa. At the request of the CARICOM, they were added to the pool and availed of access to the highly discounted supplies negotiated by the African Union with the government of China. Afreximbank's payment and letters of credit services, underpinned by its $3 billion pandemic response facility, were also made available to participating CARICOM countries. A few months later, the struggle for access to life-saving COVID-19 vaccines began. It was such a chaotic market that manufacturers only spoke to those with certain minimum orders and proof of significant funds. The African Union used the same pooled procurement mechanism to procure up to 400 million doses of Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine in a $2 billion deal underwritten and funded by Afreximbank. CARICOM economies were again admitted into the arrangement and received the much-needed vaccine doses under the guarantee and financing of Afreximbank. It is notable that at a time of extreme nationalistic instincts and primitive self-preservation, it was Africa that was willing to share the little it had with the CARICOM. By being there for CARICOM countries in their greatest hour of need, African Union demonstrated unequivocally its commitment to its declaration of the African diaspora as its sixth region, and gave practical meaning to the concept of global Africa. And for Afreximbank, which participated actively in financing and delivering the support to the Caribbean, and which had a few years earlier deployed a diaspora strategy aimed at positioning it as the global Africa Bank, it was time to head west to the Caribbean. It was time to take the center stage in promoting, facilitating, and financing intra-African trade with the emphasis on the end to show that the bank will be ready to support all Africans wherever they may be. In 2021, we began that journey with a visit to our sister, Mayor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. And this week, Your Excellencies, we're all here in the Bahamas to attend the 31st annual meetings of the bank, the first ever to be held in the Western Hemisphere. With almost 4,000 people convened here, Afreximbank is firmly establishing the rules of African capital to centers of concentration of African people. The Global Africa Bank has emerged. And it emerges as we celebrate the greatest gathering of Africans in the Caribbean ever in history. Honorable Prime Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you can now understand why we are overwhelmed with joy as we welcome you and your another esteemed guests and partners to the 31st annual meetings of Afreximbank and the 3rd annual Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. Afreximbank extends its profound appreciation to Honorable Prime Minister Philip Davis, his government, and indeed the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas for graciously hosting this historic event. We are most grateful for the cordial and uniquely warm African reception received since our arrival here in Nassau. We also extend our appreciation to the heads of state and governments and their representatives, heads of international, continental, and regional institutions, corporate leaders, and all our esteemed partners who made sacrifices to join us here. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we realize that the fate of all Africans, irrespective of their geographic location, race, or color, is inextricably linked. In today's world where might is right, the weak can only find strength in unity. The over 2 billion Africans spread around the world must now recognize that together they constitute a powerful economic force that cannot be ignored anymore. They must also recognize that power can only be potent and credible if delivered on a common and cohesive platform. Since 2022, we have made progress towards creating that common platform. Following my visit to Barbados in September 2021 and the launch of the annual Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum in 2022, we have recorded remarkable achievements. 11 of the 15 member states of the CARICOM have joined the Afreximbank family. They all signed the partnership treaty that effectively conveys the same rights and privileges to Afreximbank as accorded to the bank by African countries under the Afreximbank Establishment Agreement. In 2023, Afreximbank opened its Caribbean regional office in Bridgetown, Barbados, which immediately commenced operations. The regional chief operating officer, Mr. Hedrika, is here with us. In less than 2 years, we've built a pipeline of transactions amounting to about $2.5 billion across the CARICOM. Transactions executed or under processing include a climate adaptation facility that is helping to rebuild schools damaged by severe adverse weather in St. Lucia. A trade finance line of credit to a bank that is expanding access to trade services in St. Kitts. A sports complex rehabilitation in Barbados that we hope will foster the expansion of sports and entertainment collaboration between Africa and the Caribbean. A project preparation facility that will support the emergence of a permanent trade exhibition facility in the Bahamas. A term loan to Guyana that is expected to accelerate critical infrastructure development in support of that rapidly expanding economy.